As we begin our ceremony, I wish to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on here is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I would now ask that you please stand for the arrival of the platform party. To introduce the leadership of our service represented here today. To my left, in the first row, we have the Honorary Chief of Toronto Paramedic Services and Chief Emeritus of the Ontario Association of Paramedic Chiefs, Lieutenant General Richard Romer. next to him, we have His Worship Mayor John Tory. And Chief Bikram Chawla from Toronto Paramedic Services. In the second row, we want to welcome Toronto Paramedic Services Deputy Chief Jamie Burnett, Commander Jamie Rogers, representing Deputy Chief Leo Sang, and Deputy Chief Mike Wanzik. In the third row, we welcome Deputy Chief Jim Jessup, representing Toronto Fire Services. And we have Dr. Morgan Hillier from Sunnybrook Regional Base Hospital, as well as Scott Gorslin from Sunnybrook Regional Base Hospital. In the fourth row, we welcome Pete Shire from QP Local 416, and Miss Cheryl Robb from QP Local 79. Thank you to each of you for supporting these graduates today. And I would also just like to acknowledge the leadership and education staff of Toronto Paramedic Services, as well as all of our other command staff that has joined us this afternoon. We are here today to witness the graduation of Toronto Paramedic Services' newest group of paramedics and emergency medical call takers to join Toronto Paramedic Services. We welcome our new colleagues with open arms to the Toronto Paramedic Services family and to Toronto Public Service. We would also like to say thank you to all of you, the families and friends of our newest members, for being their support system. Without you, they would not be here today, so thank you. "191 years ago today, in June 1932, the town of York, later to become Toronto, started a public ambulance service to care for victims of a cholera outbreak. While today's Toronto Paramedic Services has come a long way since those days, we've never forgotten our public service roots and our goals to protect and improve the quality of life in Toronto by providing superior and compassionate paramedic-based health care. This is a very special day for Toronto Paramedic Services as we welcome these exceptional individuals into their new roles as call takers and as paramedics. These dedicated graduates will provide exceptional pre-hospital care to the citizens and visitors of Toronto. Emergency medicine and pre-hospital care have dramatically changed over the decades, especially in the last century. Today, Toronto Paramedic Services staff possess unmatched tools, knowledge, and critical thinking skills to provide vital care to their patients over the phone and at emergency scenes. They treat these patients and their loved ones with the utmost compassion, dignity, and respect. Today, we are celebrating 48 emergency medical call taker and paramedic graduates joining Toronto Paramedic Services, each highly skilled in their chosen career field. With no further delay, we will now begin welcoming our newest staff members. I would like to ask Chief Chawla, Mayor Tory, and Commander Jamie Rogers to please come forward. Our first paramedic graduate is Noor Aboud. Noor is a graduate of Oxford College and was a first responder in Beirut, including responding to an explosion on the 4th of August, 2020. Noor speaks Arabic and French. Our next paramedic graduate is Conrad Barrett. Conrad is a graduate of BizTech College and also holds a Bachelor of Science from McMaster University. He also tells us that he speaks French moderately. Our next paramedic graduate is Alan Beard. Graduating from Georgian College, Alan has worked for Muskoka Paramedic Services and is a Canadian Armed Forces reservist with the Grey and Simcoe Foresters. He tells us that he loves his computer hobby so much, he built a computer spending over $10,000 doing so. Our next graduate is John Benigno. John graduated from Humber College and previously worked as a technician in a chemical lab and also in supply chain management. Fluent in Tagalog, he is a committed power lifter. Our next graduate is Spencer Brawley. A graduate of Lambton College, Spencer is working towards his degree of Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Ontario Tech University. Our next paramedic graduate is Caitlin Cecile. A graduate of Boreal College, Caitlin previously worked with the Greater Sudbury Paramedic Service. She is fluent in French and is now learning Japanese. Next paramedic graduate is Kevin DeMello. Kevin graduated from Conestoga College and has 2 decades of paramedic experience. Previously, Kevin worked for the Region of Waterloo EMS, Oxford County Paramedic Services, and with SkyCare Air Ambulance. Kevin is fluent in Portuguese. The next graduate is Sergio Di Giovanni. Graduating from the Ontario College of Health and Technology, Sergio also holds a diploma in business admin and marketing from George Brown College. Before coming to Toronto, he worked as a clinical support worker in Niagara Region and has volunteered with a Niagara Falls Soup Kitchen and with Global Medic. Next paramedic graduate is Trevor Ellis. Trevor has graduated from Niagara College and previously worked for a private first aid company as a medic on a motocross track. Trevor tells us that he has fluency in French and American Sign Language. Our next paramedic graduate is Cheryl Fabro. A graduate of Oxford College, Cheryl also holds a diploma in social services. In a past life, she used to own and run a vintage clothing store. Our next paramedic graduate, Brock Ferguson. Graduating from Georgian College, Brock is a former member of Parry Sound Paramedic Services. He's also a Canadian Armed Forces reservist, serving with 25 Field Ambulance as a paramedic. A fun fact, sorry, it's a long one. A fun fact about Brock is that his middle name is McCrae, as he was born on November 11th, Remembrance Day, as a tribute to a Canadian physician, soldier, and poet, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, famous for In Flanders Fields. Our next graduate, Trexine Ann Gallopon. A graduate of Oxford College, Trexine also holds a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, previously working for Temiskaming EMS and Cochrane EMS. Fluent in Tagalog, she tells us she has a love for food, travel, and any adrenaline sport. Our next graduate is Zachary Gardam. Zachary graduated from Fleming College and formerly worked for Orange as a primary care paramedic on their land ambulance in Timmins. He's also worked in insurance sales. Zachary's 2 major life accomplishments are hiking the Pacific Crest Trail and the Camino de Santiago in Spain. Our next graduate is Patrick Harrington. A graduate of Oxford College, Patrick also holds a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology from Wilfrid Laurier. Our next paramedic graduate is Poya Haidapur. Graduating from Centennial College, Poya speaks Farsi and hails from Tehran. He loves to cook, bake, and spend time with his dogs. Our next paramedic graduate is Brandon Hidalgo. A graduate of Oxford College, Brandon previously worked as a rope and rescue tech as an on-site representative of Research Paramedic 1. He is fluent in Tagalog and loves skateboarding. Our next graduate is Andrew Hunter. Andrew is a graduate of CTS College and previously worked for Parry Sound EMS. In his time off, Andrew volunteers with the St. John's Ambulance Brigade. Our next paramedic graduate is George Ivanushich. A graduate of Oxford College, George has 13 years' experience as a primary care paramedic with Halton Regional Paramedic Services. George is also fluent in Croatian, Serbian, Slovenian, Macedonian, German, and can pass for speaking Turkish and Italian. Our next graduate is Shailene Katrayan. Shailene graduated from Oxford College and tells us that her favorite day on the job was when she got to deliver a healthy baby on her third day as a recruit. Our next paramedic graduate is Afifa Khan. Graduating from the University of Toronto with a Bachelor's of Science specialist in paramedicine, Afifa speaks Punjabi, Urdu, and Arabic. Our next graduate is Haley Kraft. Graduating from Lambton College, Haley's previous experience was with the County of Lambton Paramedic Service. Haley volunteered with the Sarnia Sting Ontario Hockey League as well. Our next graduate is Jeremy Kwong. Cantonese-speaking Jeremy is a graduate of Humber College and has previously worked for over a decade with Toronto Parks and Rec. Additionally, he worked for Huron County Paramedic Services. Of interest, Jeremy received a Citizens Award from Toronto Paramedic Services in 2014. Next paramedic graduate is Lawrence Lau. Graduating from Centennial College, Lawrence holds a degree in kinesiology from York University. Lawrence is fluent in Cantonese and formerly was a TTC streetcar operator. Our next graduate is James Lee. Born in Masan, South Korea, James is a graduate of Centennial College and a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces, where he served as a member of the Armored Regiment. Our next paramedic graduate is Daniel MacArthur. A Toronto native, Daniel graduated from BizTech College. Prior to choosing a career in paramedicine, he spent 12 years as a professional dancer. Our next graduate is Andrew McCorkle. Graduating from CTS College, Andrew formerly worked for Essex Windsor Paramedic Services. To relax, he enjoys going to the gym, cooking, and playing video games on his custom-built computer. Our next graduate, Philip McMahon. Philip graduated from Oxford College and would like to thank his family, his girlfriend, and his friends for helping him on his journey to become a Toronto paramedic. Our next graduate, Thomas McWhorter. A graduate of Oxford College and used to work at Wawa Paramedic Services, Thomas says that we should say something funny. So here's Thomas. Our next paramedic graduate is Ashwin Modi. Graduating from Humber College, previously, Ashwin was a first aid attendant working at a water park. Our next graduate is Suzanne Morrison. Originally from South Africa, Suzanne graduated from the Ontario College of Health and Technology. She was drawn to paramedicine after completing an undergrad degree in disaster management. Suzanne tells us that she enjoys adventures with her husband and friends. Afrikaans-speaking Suzanne is looking forward to all of the impromptu karaoke sessions in the ambulance and dance parties in the station throughout her career. Our next paramedic graduate Jonathan Munoz Ocampo. Originally from Colombia and speaks Spanish, Jonathan graduated from Humber College and is very proud to tell you he's a first-generation Canadian. Our next graduate, Francisco Osorio Gamis. A graduate of Oxford College, Francisco is committed to supporting his community. Currently, he is a volunteer with Peel Paramedic Services in the AED Community Responder Program and has spent years volunteering and assisting new immigrants with settlement and translation services in the Hispanic community within Toronto. He is fluent in Spanish and is currently learning Polish. Our next paramedic graduate is Brianna Pementer. Graduating from CTS Career College, Brianna comes to Toronto with 7 years as a developmental service worker and has also worked in the film industry as an event first responder. Our next paramedic graduate is Sean Patrick. A graduate of Durham College, prior to joining Toronto Paramedic Services, he served 10 years in the Canadian Armed Forces as a medical technician. He retired from the military to pursue a career as a paramedic. Our next paramedic graduate is Billy Pickles. Happily married to his wife Josie and father of 2 sons, Billy graduated from BizTech College after a career in the multimedia production industry, where he worked as an audio and lighting designer for shows and concerts across North America. Our next paramedic graduate is Jonathan Savka. Graduating from Oxford College, Jonathan was in the food service industry, starting as a barista at Starbucks, then a restaurant manager, until he found his dream job, becoming a Toronto paramedic. Our next graduate is Jared Rawson. A native of Newmarket, Jared graduated from Cambrian College. Jared is a farmer, born and bred, and when not working on an ambulance, he can be found tending to his donkeys, goats, and chickens. He loves the farming life, but it doesn't pay as well as being a paramedic. Our next graduate is Samantha Roy. Graduating from Durham College, Samantha is a former Dufferin County paramedic and aspires one day to being a medical technician with the Canadian Armed Forces. Our next graduate is Adam Saratori. Able to communicate using American Sign Language, Adam is a graduate from BizTech College. When not working, he volunteers with a community-based search and rescue team. Our next paramedic graduate is Minas Shaninian. Graduating from CTS Career College, Minas has previously worked at Lennox and Addington Paramedic Services, fluent in Arabic, Armenian, and Turkish, and he is also a pre-med student. Our next graduate is Annie Tingchalan. Annie graduated from BizTech College and has 2 aspirations. First, to be a great paramedic. The second, to be one of the best support mains on console, which is apparently a video gamer joke. And our final paramedic graduate is Gad Varagunan. Tamil-speaking Gad is a graduate of BizTech College and is known for his favorite Latin phrase, "Tu apprentium confractus escope," which loosely means in English, "your meal break has started." Thank you, Commander Rogers. Toronto Paramedic Services, emergency medical dispatchers, and call takers are critical links in the chain of emergency medical response. Often referred to as the first responders, these individuals are the first point of contact for 911 callers in need of care. While several emergency medical call takers and dispatchers have joined our ranks since 2020, the pandemic did not allow us to recognize or celebrate them until now. I would like to ask Deputy Chief Mike Wanzek to join Chief Chawla. I believe you've already done that. Thank you. With Mayor Tory. Our first emergency medical call receiver graduate is Carla Almeida. Carla is fluent in Portuguese and is one of the Toronto CAC's communication training officers. Our next emergency medical call receiver graduate is Chloe Glendenning. Chloe holds a degree in kinesiology from York University. Our next graduate is Cassandra Mauti, and I would like to take a moment to ask her father, a member of Toronto Fire Services, to come and join her up here. A graduate of Humber College with honors in emergency telecommunications, Cassandra has previously worked for a private patient transfer company and also volunteers at a distress center. Our next graduate is emergency medical call receiver, Courtney Metcalf. I would like to also welcome her father, OPP Detective Constable Metcalf, to come and join her on stage. Holding a bachelor's degree in psychology from York University and a 14-year career in the restaurant industry, Courtney has decided to use her customer service experience to assist her community in a new, meaningful way. Our next graduate is emergency medical call receiver, Marina Mongeli. Graduating with honors in emergency telecommunications from Humber College, Marina has also been a communications training officer since August of 2022. Since joining Toronto Paramedic Services, she has provided instructions in the delivery of not just one, two babies. Thank you, Deputy Chief Wanzek. This concludes the awarding of the certificates to the graduates of the Paramedic and Emergency Medical Call Taker programs. Please join me in congratulating all of them. I would now ask that Superintendent Carol Jenkins from the Paramedic Services Education and Development Team to please come forward and join Mayor John Tory and Chief Chawla for the presentation of the Joe Fox Award.
Thank you. The Joe Fox Award is presented in memory of paramedic Joe Fox, who tragically died in a traffic accident during his orientation program as a paramedic recruit. The award is presented to the graduate of Toronto Paramedic Services Orientation who has been recognized for their demonstrated professionalism, skill, and enthusiasm. Congrats to all of our November 2022 grads. But at this time, I would like to invite Danny MacArthur to the stage to receive the Joe Fox Award.
Congratulations, Dan MacArthur, and to all of our graduates. It is now my pleasure to invite the Mayor of this great city of Toronto to the podium. Mayor Tory.
thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. But most importantly of all, congratulations to these graduates. What an extraordinary group, you know. And one of the great things about, I get to go to the fire graduations, the police graduations, and the paramedic graduations. And you know what strikes you at all of them, and these are your daughters and sons, brothers and sisters, but is the incredible qualifications that people have today to become first responders, and the experiences they've had, not just the educational qualifications, but the life experiences and the personal achievements. I related to one in particular who won that award, which is Daniel, who's a professional dancer, because I consider myself in the job I have a professional dancer as well. It's a different kind of dancing, but nonetheless, it's still dancing. I should also tell you, I think we heard at the outset, that 190 years ago today was a very important day in the history of the sort of ambulance service and what today we call EMS and the paramedic service in the city of Toronto. I should also tell you that 99 years ago yesterday was a very important day that you may not have known about, and it was the 99th birthday of General Romer, who is here today. And I've had the privilege of knowing General Romer my entire life, just through a variety of intersections. And I don't know how much you know about him, but you should read about him when you go home today or on your way home. He is, in no particular order, an outstanding lawyer. He had an outstanding career in the military. He's written any number of books. I can't remember how many, but he'll tell you. He's written quite a few books, and he does things like this, and he continues to make the effort to come and be present at these kinds of graduations to show his respect and affection for the service, but also for all the new graduates. And I don't know, you know, a lot of you are too young to know of General Romer's exploits, but you should read about them, and I think it will make you very proud that he came today to your graduation to welcome you into this service. I want to just also pay tribute to Acting Chief Chawla, and also to Deputies Wianzik and Burnett, and to the Deputy Chief of our Fire Service, Jim Jessup. And that's not to take away from anybody else who's here today. But I want to tell you in particular about Deputy Chief Wianzik from the paramedics, and Deputy Chief Jessup from the Fire Service, and indeed, for that matter, the union representatives that are here today. Because when we talk about the pandemic and how we made it through the pandemic, and I think most of you will know that Toronto, and Canada for that matter, but Toronto among big cities in the world, established one of the very best records in terms of keeping people alive, keeping people safe, vaccinating people, and so on. And that was because of the leadership that was shown by people. Deputy Wianzik had a key role in all of this. Deputy Jessup really ran the fire department while his chief was helping with the pandemic effort. And the union representatives were real partners in allowing us to have the flexibility to deploy people in a way that was best to look after what was an absolutely unprecedented emergency that we had that, as you well know, went on for 2 or 3 years. And I think it is just worthy of recognizing that, even though we're at the tail end, I hope, of that entire experience, that the leadership that's represented in this room, among many others, are people that deserve to be recognized. And I hope you'll join me. I say to our graduates that, you know, public service is something that is so honorable, and I consider it to be so noble, whether it's in public office or whether it's as a first responder or any other form of public service. I think it is, you know, the ultimate privilege to be able to serve the public. And I hope that you feel that way as you embark on a career that is also, though, very demanding. You know, if you look at a city of 3 million people, that last year paramedics responded to 300,000 calls in a city of 3 million people. And that's not better or worse than other cities. It's not my point. My point is simply to say that there are huge demands placed on the paramedics, and I'm proud of the fact that we are responding to that in terms of where I sit as mayor and putting forward a budget that will allow for the hiring of more people, including you, but others to come, because the demands are there, and we need to make sure that we have the people, well-qualified people like you, to respond to those demands. And you know, they're just not ordinary demands. I mean, you will be called upon to help people and to support people in a compassionate and professional way in what could be the very worst hours of their lives. And that is something that places a great deal of responsibility and stress on you. But I know that you're up to that, and I know that we're going to provide you with every bit of support that we possibly can. You know, you will end up, of course, as you've been trained to do, providing heroic life-saving measures to all kinds of people, and increasingly it is to people who are in distress. You know, it may be distress that is related to a physical health problem or some other kind of incident that's happened, but increasingly it's also related to distress that's been caused by mental health concerns and indeed by substance issues. I have said earlier today, because it is a day on which we talk a lot about mental health because of the initiatives of the Bell family of companies, we're having a mental health crisis across this country, and some of it existed long before the paramedic. I think it's been added to by the paramedic just in terms of the stress a lot of kids faced, and adults for that matter, going through an extraordinary circumstance where they were isolated from their own families and their jobs and from each other. And I would just say to you that I hope that you are able to do what your predecessors and the people presently that you're joining in the paramedic EMS service have done, which is to help to look after people who are in those worst moments of their lives, sometimes because of those kinds of issues. You know, there were many, many that were saved, including by members of the paramedics, but it's something worth pausing and thinking about for more than a moment, and certainly for people like me in public office. I think all the time about the fact that we lost in the city of Toronto alone last year 595 people to drug overdoses. And that's something that isn't written up as much as some of the other facts and figures that are more readily brought to your attention by the media or just in terms of your own research. But I think it's worthy of mentioning because it supports the need for all of us to try and do more, whether it's as individuals to help those who are struggling, whether it's as governments, where I called today for all three governments to get together in a room, and not hundreds of people, but just a very small group of people around a table to say we must do better than this. 595 people in one city losing their lives to one issue, a health issue. It's not a moral issue, it's not a legal issue, it's a health issue. And we have to do better than that. We wouldn't put up with that if it was a lot of other kinds of health issues. And so we will try to put the resources in place with paramedics, with the health system, but it's really the responsibility of all of us working together. And you know what? We proved during the paramedic that if the governments worked well together and cooperated together and saved all of their arguments for some other time, we could get a lot done and establish among the best records in the world of any country, any city, to make sure that we could save lives and keep people healthy and keep people safe, which is our principal responsibility that we have in public office. So I will just say to you again, congratulations. I thank the families, because I know that no matter all the sterling things we heard about here from all these people in terms of their education and the other experiences they'd had, the work they'd done already as paramedics, they were probably troublesome, because if they had the ambition to do something like this, and they were probably troublesome when they were a kid, I was, and I think I turned out okay, although my mother would still disagree with that maybe. But I want to thank the families, because you were there on the journey, and the spouses and the brothers and sisters, because you were there on the journey. It's often been a very difficult journey to be on, and now you've arrived at a position of great privilege, great responsibility, great respect as a first responder, and I just wish you well. You're a part of the team now that allows us to continue to say, as I believe to be the case with all of our challenges and problems, that we're privileged to live in the best city in the best country in the world, and you're now part of the team that's going to help us keep it that way, and that's what we're all going to do together. And so again, congratulations, and thank you to the chief and to the members, the existing members of the EMS, for a job extremely well done all the time. If I told you the stories that I hear just in my job of heroic acts and compassionate acts and incredible things that are done, I could go on all day. And some of you think I already have. That's the dancer part, you see. But God only gave me one talent, was how to talk. That was about it, so I can talk. But having said that, they just do a superb job for us, and I know they'll continue to do so, and with my full support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tory. I'm honored to next invite the Honorary Chief of Toronto Paramedic Services, Lieutenant General Richard Romer, to say a few words.
This is a special day for me, as well as for His Worship the Mayor. He's the finest young mayor that I've ever had to teach and counsel from the time he was very young and took my oldest daughter out to a date. and I'll never let him forget his responsibility because he articulates responsibility so well. I listened to all of the words he gave to you today, the graduates, and he did it in a way which is not overpowering, but it is powering. He knows how to talk about the reality of what he's doing in the post of mayor. And he's saying to you that you have a responsibility to the people of Toronto that he has. And he's very proud to be part of what you're doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. But he's learned from everything I taught him. And he's still learning more. And he's going to sleep, you see. I know what he's thinking all the time, even when he's asleep. I have been doing this role for the last 20 years. I've attended virtually every graduation of this august group of people who have come into the system and made such a contribution to the people of Toronto in a way that is almost indescribable. The mayor has articulated in his words the essence of the responsibility that each of you has. It's a great responsibility for the future of this city. I must say to you that I have an ownership piece of the piece of property that we're on now. When I was 18, I joined the Air Force. It's a long time ago. I was 99 yesterday. And I joined the Air Force, and after the war, I did a tour of operations in Europe as a fighter reconnaissance pilot and captain. As a reconnaissance pilot, captain, very interesting people, and had been done in on the other side. When I came back here, I joined eventually in about 1950 a flying jet squadron, 400 Squadron, the first jet squadron of Canada, jet fighters. And they brought me in. I'd been in the Navy in Windsor, where I was going to university after the war. And they brought me into the squadron based at Downsview on the airport upon which all of this has been built. It is now being taken into different uses. So when I arrived in Toronto to go to law school, I joined 400 Squadron flying the Vampire jets. And with my experience wartime, they took me in with no rank, pilot officer, and they said, you can fly the airplane, do what you can, and no seniority. It was okay because 3 years later I was commander of the squadron and doing the best I could to keep people from killing themselves, which in airplanes, which was tough. But it was my airfield, and this airfield was out in the boonies. There was nothing out here at all, just the airport, no buildings, no commerce, no nothing except the hangars that were at the north end of this airfield. And that's what we operated from. And the last of the hangars has just fundamentally disappeared. So I had a stake in the ground here a long time ago. And the stake in the ground has been one of the great stakes of my life in terms of responsibility and service, because I have been fortunate enough to be able to continue in association with paramedics and other organizations that now live here, including the Army. Air Force always has to include the Army in something. And do so very well. And the OPP, I saw an OPP uniform, and I'm the honorary head of the OPP, among other things. But the reality of life that you're into now is one of service to the community. You're going to be paid for it. You're going to be recognized for it. And it's going to be tough from time to time what you're experiencing because you're in a highly difficult sector of society. I am proud to be here and to talk with you and to claim my corner of this valuable piece of land and to have participated in my own way over many years in preserving what we know as Canada, finest country in the world in which to live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant General Romer, for those words. And again, on behalf of all of us, happy 99th birthday. I would now like to ask Paramedic Services Chief Bikram Chawla to please come forward to deliver some remarks.
Thank you, Yvonne. To the leadership team, feel free to remove your forage caps. I know that you're probably looking for a little bit of relief. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and a heartfelt welcome to our graduates, friends, and family, and our paramedic and leadership colleagues. Thank you for celebrating with us. Despite the slightly inclement weather today, you've obviously felt it was important enough to come and support and recognize these incredible individuals with your love and support. So thank you so much for that. And thank you today for the organizers and to our education teams for their tireless work in supporting our new recruits throughout their journey. You know, pulling together one of these events takes a lot of work, a heck of a lot of work. And the people behind the scenes, our communications folks, the multimedia individuals, they do it with so almost effortlessly, and so I really want to recognize them. Please join me in a round of applause. And of course, a special thank you to our Canadian Armed Forces partners for their support and for allowing us to use the Denison Armory for this special event. I'd also, of course, like to recognize our honored guests, His Worship Mayor Tory, our Medical Director, Dr. Morgan Hillier, Scott Gorsland from the Sunnybrook Regional Base Hospital, QP Local 79 Vice President of Equity, Cheryl Robb, and Deputy Fire Chief, Jim Jessup. You know, the City of Toronto enjoys the best of emergency services because of our partnerships. And I thank all of you for your strong partnerships and unwavering support. I was proud to begin I've called Toronto home for most of my life. You know, when my parents immigrated to Canada over 30 years ago, you know, it's a vibrant, diverse city with so much to offer our residents and visitors, and I couldn't be happier to live here. I was proud to begin my career as a paramedic in Toronto in 1990, and 33 years later, it is a privilege to stand before you as the acting chief of this outstanding service. It's our pleasure to have two groups of graduates joining us this afternoon, our emergency telecommunicators and our newest class of paramedics. Graduates, welcome to our Toronto Paramedic Services family and to the Toronto Public Service. You have worked extremely hard to get to this point, and I congratulate you. Job well done. Our service is one where you can be assured that the latest evidence-based practices and technology will be used to help you help your callers and your patients. Whether you're embedded in our sophisticated communications center or providing high-quality patient care in the field, You have chosen an exciting, rewarding, and challenging career, a career that will bring with it the respect of your patients, the public, and your peers. A career in paramedic services is a calling like no other. Your days may be long and sometimes very difficult, but the gratitude of your patients and their loved ones is always so rewarding. As you care for others with this immense responsibility, ensure that you care for yourselves and each other. You heard me talking about it this morning with all of you. If you're struggling at any point, know that you are never alone. Reach out to any of the supports that are available to you through the service in the city. Remember that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk and share. Remember that without keeping yourselves physically well, keeping yourselves mentally well, you can't provide the same level of service to those that rely on you every day here on this job. So please take care of yourselves. Always remember why you chose these honorable professions. Every time you pick up the phone, dispatch a crew, enter someone's home, or help someone in need, it's an opportunity to make a lifelong difference in that person's life. Remember, you may not remember every caller or every patient that you attend to, but rest assured, each one of them in that moment of crisis will for sure remember you and how you made them feel. As I wrap up, I want to recognize and thank your families and loved ones. Thank you, because your paramedics, EMDs, and call takers would not be here today without your love and your support. Thank you for that. Thank you to everyone for joining us, and congratulations again to our graduates. You've done an amazing job. I wish you all the success in your careers. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and welcome to the Toronto Paramedic Services family.
Thank you again, Chief Chawla. Thank you to the friends, colleagues, and loved ones joining us this afternoon to celebrate and to recognize all of the achievements of our graduates today. My congratulations again goes out to everyone. I would now ask that everyone please stand for the performance of the National Anthem by Toronto Paramedic Services Superintendent Melissa Elaschuk.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Wow, thank you, Melissa. That was fantastic. If you could all, I apologize, please remain standing for the departure of the platform party.
Stand up again. Bring you the water. Bring the water.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes today's graduation ceremony for Toronto Paramedic Services. Thank you, everybody, for attending. On behalf of Chief Chawla, I invite you to please join us all for light refreshments on the north side of the drill hall in just a few moments. However, first, I would like to ask the audience members, please remain in your seats, and that all the graduates come forward so we can have a group photo taken up here at center stage. Thank you all and enjoy the day.